Hello, my beautiful people. Okay, the long awaited Soul Connections show, which I'm going to have to break up because this is very deep, people, and can be very overwhelming. Okay, so what I wanted to start with, and again, I should write this down as far as which episode you can reference because I talked a little bit about defining the spirit and the soul. Okay, so let me tell you what I'm going to do. I talked about that a little bit already, but for those of you who haven't listened yet, I'm going to talk a little bit about it now. So, really getting into this soul connections talk, really, it's life connections, right? So, for those of you who haven't studied a lot of this before, soul connections, this sort of talk, don't really understand it, don't, you know, I want to say new to the life journey, but even if you're not, like I said, you could really be finding out a lot about this information later in life. Okay, and you're hearing about all of this for the first time from me. Because really, some things have come very naturally to me in life, and I forget that some of it some of it does not come naturally to people, right? And this talk of being intuitive and different things like that. But the reason really for me bringing up the soul connections thing is because it wasn't really more so about me. I guess to say it was more so about helping me understand the people in my life. And that's why when I started really getting into human behavior, I found it really fascinating. And then I just started really diving deep after I saw the patterns in my life. So, to make a long story short, what I want to do with this, because I really was going to go crazy with it in terms of like breaking down examples and talking about different things, but I want to, it's very draining for me. I also don't know how much this interests people, and there's so much you can Google on the internet. I want to give you the things that of course, with my examples, but also like what I've learned from this well respected lady, PhD Carol Ritberger, who is known. She's from, I believe she's from El Dorado Hills, but she's a radio show host. She was. She's had, I haven't even read all of her books, like several near death experiences. And after that, as a result of that, she's been able to x ray the body and see different things that are going on inside of people, from medical conditions to all sorts of things. So, she explains things like it's goes very deep. I get very overwhelmed. I have this binder of information. And the bottom line is what I want to share with people along my journey is there's a lot I don't know. There's a lot I will probably never know, even, up until my death. Um, and there are things, of course, too, that I will probably not be able to, don't understand, maybe won't ever understand. I don't know, right? So even the stuff that a lot of these spiritual people talk about, I still don't get. I'm really just like, okay, what's the point of all this? So even in my beliefs about reincarnation and things like that, I do believe in that sort of stuff. But just kind of processing like the whole, like we come from the stars and we're going to return to the stars and that whole sort of thing, it doesn't totally resonate with me. So I can't speak from that point, but she does, right? So, and she still offers some classes, so that's kind of kick ass to be able to go and meet her. And you would think she's the vault of everything I ever wanted to know, but she definitely, not definitely, I'm not sure that she has studied Sufism like me, which is something that's very, very much intriguing to me and that has explained my particular journey and my purpose, if you want to call it, or my calling. So to get right to it is that I'm going to be reading. I'm going to be reading from this booklet. I took a class that I took years ago, and it's through the Ritberger Institute for Esoteric Studies, and she has a lot of stuff online. And that's spelled, her last name is R-I-T as in Tom, B as in boy, Erger. And she's talking about the soul's journey. The soul. Okay, so before we get into it, because I'm going to get again, depends on how much talking I'm going to do in this episode, and I might just have to break it up. And like I said, it can be really overwhelming. So let me just read to you this first part, and then I may just leave it as at this. Um, but basically, why I want to do this, right, is to explain and kind of help us all understand what the hell's going on when, whether it's our patterns or these people you meet and you feel like you've known them forever, and just like, why do you feel these emotions and these ups and downs, and they trigger you, and all these different things, right? That I probably really make it, well, for me, make life seem, I don't want to say difficult, but maybe why we pick the people we do, and why certain relationships work and some of them don't, and some of them, or they don't last very long, or what's going on, right? And you look at it like, even of everything that I've studied, it's like, okay, what's the point? Okay, evolution of our soul. Okay, to go on to the next life, if you believe that, and do different things over there, and this and that, and why be afraid to die because we're going to live other lifetimes? And really, what is the point? The evolution of our soul. Okay, who cares? Who cares? Like, what's the point? Okay, what you don't figure out here, you come back again and relive it and redo it again. Okay, well, I'm not going to remember anyway. So all this stupid stuff, I consider it stupid, because I'm like, this, so many facets of it don't make sense. But the facets that do make sense, and I'm like, oh, I get it, is that when I realized I learned these certain lessons, I'm not repeating them anymore, right? Okay, to ultimately realize I'm in my serving, I'm in my calling, while I feel like I'm helping different types of audiences, it all has to do with mindset and empowerment. And that is for another show of my journey, right? Personal empowerment journey. You can go look on there, and Hypnotized by Beauty and all that sort of stuff. It's another playlist. Okay, so let's begin. Nearly every spiritual tradition, both ancient and contemporary, alludes to the fact that the soul is immortal, and that it will return back into physical form so it can continue its spiritual journey of refinement. These traditions even suggest that the soul prior to its birth determines the lessons it wants to learn and chooses the ways through which those lessons will be learned. They propose that the soul has in-depth conversations with its spirit guides and with the other souls who will share in its incarnation, and that a sacred bond is agreed upon with all these souls prior to its incarnation. Okay, so she is talking about, like, those of you who may not know about reincarnation, and you can go look that up yourself, or whether you believe it or not, I think you can still walk away from the things that I'm going to be reading to you from this manual. Like I said, like, take what resonates with you, That's what I've done with everything. Like, okay, that's true. That's not true for me. That could be true, whatever, whatever. Okay, so just please keep an open mind. I forgot to say that. Okay, and as we go, I'll explain a little bit more. Okay, so uh, prior to its incarnation, we finished there. This bond is referred to as a soul agreement, and this agreement forms soul connections that serve as the attractor of the people who play an integral role in our lives. They determine how we'll interact with them and how they'll interact with us. These soul agreements reveal the role they'll play in our spiritual growth, their placement in our soul's genealogy, their earthly purpose, in our personal growth, and the behavior they'll engage in that will allow the agreement to be completed prior to transition back into light. These soul agreements ensure that we'll complete the lessons we choose to learn and that we committed to in our life charts, and in doing so, fulfill our soul's purpose and live our destiny. It's helpful to realize that the soul and spirit aren't the same, even though they're often used interchangeably. We need to recognize that while intangible, it's the soul that's the impetus behind the evolutionary process and that serves as the catalyst for change. And it's the spirit that serves as the energetic lifeline between the soul, the mind, and the body. Okay, so that's where I wanted to explain. This is where things can get deep and confusing. I have to reread over certain areas. Okay, so like I said, you can look a lot of this stuff up on the internet. Okay, so many different resources that'll probably say it in different ways, but just for the sake of this episode and what we're talking about, I'm just going to read little pieces. Okay, The soul defined is our core essence. It's the source of our aliveness. It serves as our inner navigator as we move through life, always guiding us forward on our spiritual journey. The soul provides the energetic vitality that animates our physical body and helps sustain us in our darkest times. Now I'm going to summarize. It offers us comfort in times when we're hurt, afraid, and we can't see beyond our mental limitations. It's our inner healer. Okay? And then it speaks through us through our intuition and our dreams. It also energetically imprints the journey of our life between birth and death and contains the archival history of all that we have experienced on the physical earth plane. Okay, next, the soul's purpose. Its focus is on the quality of life and in the relationships we develop. As we move forward through the cycles of life, the soul records energetically in the cells of the body and in our energy body that we've learned from our experiences. It's these elements that are of the greatest value and true gifts of life. The soul uses emotional reactions as a means of letting us know when our thoughts are in alignment with its purpose and when they aren't. Okay. Another way the soul brings attention to the quality of our thoughts is through our body, through aches and pains, discomfort, tension, stress, physical symptoms, and illness. Okay, and it goes on to describe, which is also, again, very fascinating to me for those of you who are interested about the soul's intention when we are going through these indicators within our body. It's not the soul's intention to cause bodily harm. It understands that in our humanness, we're susceptible to creating limiting thoughts due to our conditioning. So basically, this is kind of where it explains that, like, I don't know if I ever say it right, psychosomatic, basically where your thoughts and emotions connected, right, can create illness in the body. And that goes into talking about Eastern medicine. But basically, that's what's going on there and can explain. And that's also why all of this, including connecting on a deeper level, how you hear miracle stories of people healing themselves. Okay, so let me skip on to, I didn't talk about, okay, soul defined, soul's purpose, spirit defined, just this little part, okay? Spirit refers to our energetic nature and serves as the lifeline connecting the soul, the mind, and the physical body. It's the communication interface between the three and makes it possible for the soul to express its intentions through human experience. Spirit is the aura and it forms the energy body that surrounds and interpenetrates the physical body. So it's vibrational in nature and it uses wave-like frequencies and energy patterns to reveal the sojourns of the soul. If I said that right. And to magnetically attract experiences and relationships intended to promote personal growth and that will advance the soul in its search for refinement and perfection. Okay? Lots more. The purpose of spirit is to assist the soul in its physical expression and to energetically communicate when thoughts are impeding its ability to do so. Okay, and then it goes on to explain what it's doing. Okay, so let's go right into the really, I don't know to say juicy part, but what I really feel like people want to hear. Like, break it down, Nora. Okay, what is going on here? And I've heard about this before when it comes to like life charts and Akashic records and all this stuff. Oh, we've designed before this lifetime and we forget when we get here and blah, 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 which I still, again, doesn't resonate with me. Exactly. Like, I don't know. I feel like I've designed it in my lifetime. So like, I don't know. I don't know people. Okay. So soul connections. Next part. The goal is to gain our deeper understanding why people enter into our lives either for a brief encounter or as part of our human family. Okay, so The key concepts are these connections are written in our life charts, and those connections are intended to help us grow spiritually. Like, right? We just said this. They're the most vital part of the fulfillment of our destiny, and they are what add meaning and purpose to life. There is a soul connection system. Okay, so again, if you go look up these sorts of things, you're going to learn about soul companions. You're going to learn about all these different things that, again, councils. What is this? Council of Elders. This whole section that I'm just kind of like, it's too out of this world for me. Okay. Earthbound soul connections. I think this is pretty well said. I might add to it. They can be divided into several categories. Relationships involving love, where the degree of commitment is so strong that both souls believe they couldn't function without each other. 2, relationships involving love as a means of providing support, safety, and security. 3, relationships based on mutual respect. 4, based on friendship and companionship. 5, relationships that are the antithesis of who we are. And 6, relationships that are casual and short-lived. I'm sure you may have known this by now. And who's a friend, who's an acquaintance, what level of type of friend they are, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so soul agreements, this is the part that I'm not really sure to say I can agree on. She says, or what the knowledge that Carol gets, this is again in this binder, of course, is that there are only 4 soul agreements. So I don't really understand this because I don't know if that means just there's going to be 4 impactful ones. But this is how she describes the agreements are sacred bonds that we create prior to our incarnations, and these are intended to help us each achieve our life lessons written in the chart, that there are 4, and that each one has a strength and a shadow quality, and we only make one soul agreement with one person. That agreement remains the same until we cross over to the other side. Okay. Then I wanted to talk about in these soul agreements, and she lists them out in order, but I'm not going to read them. Oops, sorry, I'm being loud. I'm not going to read them because, again, they can be overwhelming, but it's crazy when you go through them because you're like, that's that person. That's somebody I know like that. And who's that? So it's kind of a fun little game. But I wanted to read to you the most important part. To me, I have so much that I underlined. And basically, what I like about it, not what I like, it just explains so much, people. Okay, so part of our human experience is to learn how to overcome self-judgment and remove the karmic memories associated with it. Okay, their primary directives are to help us rise above our human fears and insecurities and to provide the basic needs for us to survive in the physical world. An important part of these needs are relationships. If these needs are met and our fears and insecurities no longer dictate our behavior or manipulate us emotionally, then it's easier for us to live a more meaningful and purposeful life. The agreements bring attention to our strengths as well as our limitations and to our resolved and unresolved emotional hurts by allowing us to observe our actions and behavior through the eyes of others. They help us shed the false and limiting identities created by our conditioning and help create identities that allow us to express our authentic self. Okay, I'm going to stop right there, and because I have something to say, and also we will continue because this page is really good, people. I know that you need to hear this. Okay, so what the most important thing I wanted to say, because when I read this about shedding false and limiting identities, is that in the beginning of the life journey, I guess because I realized from such a young age that this is unique, right? This is about 14 and just realizing that I don't want to say, I guess I realized I was different than everybody else that I was growing up around, but a lot of people feel like this, right? But I had just a different, I guess, outlook on like, it's not that I was like thinking like, why is everybody being fake? Like I saw people that I thought, when I say fake, not being themselves, but like putting on a show. I'd have to, or a mask, to appear a certain way. So I'd have to really write on this and journal on this, like how I viewed, like I just said, like the outside world or the mainstream world, and that I couldn't relate to it. Um, Maybe it's just people around me weren't really talking about things, not only that I was talking about, but really like innermost like thoughts, even if it's just about the world. And my music was one of my support systems. And like, I don't know, people, I'd have to like really sit down and think about this, but this is also going back to fitting in and acceptance. And that's a lot of why people put on masks. They don't even know that they're doing it. So, and again, training and programming and what we see, and people feel like the way that they have to live, or maybe it's again not even a pressure that they would consciously say, like, oh yeah, that's why I was doing that. Um, you, whoever it is, you're just being yourself, you're living your life, you're just doing the do, right? What's always been done. It's kind of the same thing. I'll give the example of the things we do in culture. Like, okay, somebody asks you for your social security number and you just give it to them. Or, this even, I don't even know about when with this started. It could be like with cell phones, but it was before then. But like, again, just a following of a thing, whatever it is culturally that we do. Or now I would do things so much differently, or as an adult, even when somebody asks you for your email address, like I don't have to give it to them, right? So much I learned in standing up for myself, speaking up for myself, and overcoming a lot of fears. So that's what I wanted to say on this, is that maybe people don't think that being authentic is important or even know what that is. But when you are not authentic, you, when you're not authentic and true to yourself, a lot of things can happen. It's not like I want to say bad things will happen to you. It's just that there are things that as a result of that, I would say are maybe not necessarily a positive thing. For example, people that take their own lives that are not being true to their identity of, we'll just say, their gender identity back in the day, right? So back then, not being in alignment, not being true, not being, they repress. So basically, they repress it, right? Maybe feel bad about it. They are fearful of sharing or being judged. They take their life, right? They can't handle it. They cannot handle living their life in that situation, right? I'm just going to give you an example of that. And that's why people want to talk a lot of shit or whatever about everything going now, 2024 going on, these different things, and they want to say that they're confused, XYZ. Everybody has an opinion, right? But the bottom line is that whatever the case is, would you rather have the opposite? Would you rather have people offing themselves? It's not funny, but would you rather see that? Would you rather see that? I don't know. Maybe some people would, right? Some people are disgusted about, anything. Still just disgusted in general about just people that are gay. So it's not according to their religion or what their belief systems are, right? We know this is the true for a lot of people. So that's why living authentically, people, and being true to your heart and being true to yourself, even though you're going to have to learn in your own ways, this is how I can explain of why it's important. When you try to deny yourself, your heart, your spirit, your calling, you will either be haunted, right? Haunted by it for the rest of your life, or something else is going to happen. Okay, that's, like I said, not necessarily like a good thing. That's again another judgment on people who take their lives from the religious perspective, that you should not do that, and all these sorts of things. When sometimes there's some people, there is no guarantee. They don't even know what's on the other side or whatever, and they just want to be gone. Okay, so we're really making judgments on their choices, and yes, who they left behind. I get it, but that makes me sad to think that somebody, though, has come to that point in their life to do that because they feel either depressed or whatever reason. It doesn't have to be not being authentic. It just could be, stress or whatever. You're not being supported. There's so many different reasons. And so I'm going to pick up in the part 2 and talk more a little bit, finish up this area on soul agreements and just how understanding this, if you were even asking yourself, the friends you've had, the relationships you've had, and we were trying to understand, like, why was I attracted to that? Why did I like that person? Why this? Why that? Or why do I keep making these what I consider mistakes? I look at mistakes as things to learn from, to forgive ourselves, even we're like, that was dumb, why did I do that? And being angry at ourselves and all this sort of stuff. This helps us understand others, understand ourselves, and better yet, best of yet, to help us forgive ourselves when we get in situations that maybe we should not have. We feel like we shouldn't. Like, hey, I'm a smart person. Whatever, I consider myself for a smart person. Why am I doing this? Why am I letting somebody manipulate me? Why am I this, that, and whatever? Okay? That's why, again, I will say, no judgment. I am no better than anybody else. I have gone through my own things. While I don't think that they're huge, it's been a lot more so of like dealing with myself and the world and finding out, like, again, that's for another show, but dealing with like the no judgment of like, I've been friends with people maybe I shouldn't have been, shouldn't have let things continue, shouldn't have whatever it is, because that would get me into sidetracked more. So I feel like it's mostly been struggles with friendships. Nothing crazy again, but just something kind of like my last example of the friend who I knew if she came back, I had to stand up. Like I will always forgive, but like I had to be firm if she came back into my life. Like, what was I going to do about this? Okay. I know I talked really fast and read really fast. Hopefully it wasn't too fast. And I'm going to end this right here. We will talk more, like I said, more again about soul agreements. I hope this provides some sort of value to you in your life. And like I said, take what resonates with you, disregard the rest. And yes, I will talk to you next time. Okay, thanks for listening. Bye.